On behalf of the National Transit Institute, thank you for participating in the NTD Safety and Security Rail Mode Reporting webinar. The National Transit Institute develops, promotes, and delivers training and education programs for the public transit industry in the United States. We are pleased to have Ann Singleton, James Overbeek, and Stephen Bazalka as our presenters. Ann Singleton is a Senior Safety and Security Analyst for the NTD program since 2009. Ann has been involved with several FCA initiatives such as the State Safety Oversight Program, the Commuter Rail Safety Study, and the Transit Bus Safety and Security Program in a variety of roles. Prior to Ann's work with FTA, she was a software instructor and database developer. James Overbeek joined the NTD team in 2015. He is a graduate of the Randolph-Macon College and currently works as a validation analyst for the Safety and Security module of the National Transit Database. Stephen Bazalka joined the NTD team in January 2018. He is a graduate of James Madison University and is a validation analyst for the Safety and Security module of the National Transit Database, recently making the transition from the annual module. So today, it's the second time we're using Zoom for our webinars. I apologize for the slight malfunction. I couldn't find my PowerPoint. Hopefully everyone received the instructions for viewing the screen. I did get some feedback that someone on the last webinar was concerned that the screen was taking over his entire computer. The document with instructions has information on how to control, how to get out of full screen and adjusting the size of the windows. You can also move the question and answer box and the chat box around and place them wherever you would like. You can ask questions in the Q&A box, and in fact, we encourage you to do so. Because we have 3 presenters today, you can ask questions at the designated point in time where the slides show up, or you can ask them as we go along, and hopefully someone will be able to answer you. The questions are collected and they will be available for download, which is nice because they're not lost in the chat, how they used to be when we used Adobe Connect. I pasted the link to the handouts in the chat, but you might have to scroll all the way up, so I will redo that as soon as we get started. And I'm going to now turn the presentation over to Ann, give her control of the PowerPoint, and we will get going here.
Thank you, Lori.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today. The goal of today's session is to familiarize NTD reporters with the safety and security reporting requirements and the individual reporting forms. We hope that the knowledge you gain today will make your job easier, and we sincerely appreciate your commitment to safety and security reporting. For those of you that report for purchase transportation providers, please share this presentation with them so that they are aware of what you are required to report to NTD. May also be a good idea to share this presentation with those responsible for providing you, even within your own agency, of the data that needs to be reported. Again, so they're aware of your thresholds and the information you need to collect. Okay, so I'm sorry,
I think you hit it twice. Sorry, there.
Thank you. All right, so today we're going to access the NTD system and show you how to navigate through the various menus and forms. We'll discuss how setup is achieved, and we'll also review the CEO Certification form, the S&S-20, the S&S-30 Security Configuration form. We'll review the 2019 reporting clarifications and form changes, reporting on the S&S-50 non-major summary report, as well as reporting S&S-40 major events. As mentioned, James, Stephen, and I are your instructors for today. Joe Eldridge, the NTD Project Manager, and Maggie Schilling, the NTD Program Manager, will not be joining us today. We're showing you contact information here, but we will also show the contact information at the end of the presentation. If you do not know who your safety and security analyst is, please feel free to contact any of us for any information you may need. So let's get started with overviewing NTD and accessing the system. First, we're going to talk a little bit about the NTD itself. In 1974, Congress established the National Transit Database Program as a means to collect information and statistics on transit systems in the United States. The first data was collected in 1979 with paper reports. Since then, the NTD has evolved into the nation's primary source of information and statistics on transit systems. All modes of transportation are included in NTD data collection. Sorry, having a little trouble with this advancing. I'm sorry, I don't seem to have my left arrows. Let me try something else. Here we go. Now I see them. Sorry about that. All right. Agencies that are recipients of or beneficiaries of Urbanized Area Program Funds 5307 and 5311 are required to report data with some exceptions. Both public and private providers are encouraged to voluntarily report, as this will increase the federal grant allocation to that urbanized area. All reporters designated as full reporters are required to report monthly safety and security events meeting a threshold. Agencies designated as small systems or rural or tribal reporters report safety and security data on an annual basis rather than a monthly basis. Agencies who have requested a reporting waiver due to a significant natural disaster are not required to report for the period of the waiver. The data reported to NTD is used to provide industry performance reports to Congress and other federal agencies and departments, and is used to factor federal allocations, as mentioned, which last year was over $8 billion. The NTD data is also used to direct, support, or improve other FTA program initiatives, such as the State Safety Oversight Program. NTD data is also used to generate various analyses of trends in transit safety and security events. The safety and security data is published on a monthly basis and is available to the general public on the NTD webpage. This data is accessed again by federal, state agencies, transit systems, media, or any other interested parties. Published data can be found on the NTD website under the NTD data link. There's two products there you would actually see, the safety and security time series data, and then the safety and security major only time series. Data reported to NTD is validated and checked for accuracy by the safety and security analysts who review on each report submitted. The analyst will contact the NTD reporter for questions, late or incomplete reports or questionable data, missing reports based on event notifications we may have, could also be a point of contact. We may also contact agencies for various special analyses we conduct throughout the year, such as our comparative analysis used to identify any adverse trends or potential adverse trends. All the various forms have deadlines. The S&S-20 monthly summaries are due on the last day of each month for the previous month's data. For example, the March report would be due on April 30th. However, Commuter Rail modes and Alaska Railroad do not report S&S-20 form data. The NTD systems sends automatic email reporting reminders to the safety contact on or about the 20th of each month. This is not a late notice, it is just a reminder to report. The NTD systems sends automated late notices on the 1st and the 15th of each month if your data has not been submitted. Please note that when a report has been saved but not submitted, it is considered late. So if you do get a late notice, please check to ensure all of your reports have been submitted. On the 15th of the month, if FTA data is still outstanding, a third late notice will be sent by the analyst. FTA may start to initiate a delinquent reporter process and add the agency to a failure to report list for delinquent reports. If there are circumstances why you cannot get your data submitted, please contact your safety analyst to let them know. Failure to report, as mentioned, required data can have severe consequences and could affect the program funding. Failure to reports can be submitted by the analyst to FTA for a variety of reasons, such as delinquent S&S-50s, if the year-end CEO certification is more than 45 days late, habitual delinquent reports, incomplete S&S-50 data that is not complying with reporting requirements, or fails to respond to analysts' inquiries. So accessing the NTD webpage. Your username and your email is your email address in all lowercase letters. The agency's user manager establishes a person's user role within the system. The user manager is also the point of contact if you need to have your user role changed. There are 6 access levels for NTD reporting. The CEO and CEO delegate and NTD contacts have the highest level of access and full functionality to include NTD annual forms, monthly ridership, and safety and security reporting. The main difference between the 2 CEO accesses and the NTD contacts is that CEOs and delegates can submit the agency's certification form. NTD editors, shown only as an editor in the system, can edit annual forms and can submit monthly ridership and safety and security forms as well. The safety contact can create, edit, delete, save, and submit forms. The safety editor, however, can only create, edit, and save. They have no submission rights. None of the safety contacts can change annual or ridership data. A person must be uniquely identified in only one role. The designated contacts are responsible for reporting data accurately and responding to questions about submitted data. Automated emails, such as reminders and late notices, are sent to the safety contact. If there's no safety contact, these are sent to the NTD contact. The email address listed as the last modified user will receive notices for forms that are returned for questions or for changes. Users can change passwords as often as they like, but the system requires a new password every 60 days. Passwords must be at least 12 to 20 characters and comprised of at least 1 uppercase letter, 1 lowercase letter, 1 number, and or a special character, any 3 out of those 4. If a user ID has not been used for 60 days, the system will lock that user ID. If you get locked out, you can click on the Reset Password link located where you sign in, and you can also use the Forgot Password link if you've forgotten what your password is. There are different levels of lockout, so if you need assistance, you can certainly contact the NTD Help Desk or your safety analyst. The National Transit Database access is accessed, from the Federal Transit Administration webpage. This is a snapshot of the NTD homepage on the FTA webpage. Please notice the link that we're pointing to here, the NTD reporting tool. That's where you would use to go in to access the system and do your reporting. You'll also notice on the left-hand side that there are several other options that you can choose. So we're going to take a look at those next. The first of these links is the About the NTD section, which contains an overview of the NTD program, contact information, and help desk contact information. The NTD data section provides access to the time series products for historical and current annual data, monthly ridership data, and safety and security statistical data. You will also find agencies' profiles and the National Transit Summaries and Trends annual products. Under the reference materials selection, you'll find the NTD glossary, policy manuals, quick reference guides, and information on training, conferences, presentations, webinars, as well as an explanation of all the forms used in NTD reporting. When you click on the NTD reporting tool, the link will first present the screen that you see on the left-hand side here. And once you click on the Agree button, then you will see the adjacent screen shown here where you can enter in your email address and enter the system. And you'll also notice we've pointed out the password or reset password. You either forgot password or reset password accordingly. And again, just your login is your business email address in lowercase. So once you enter into the system, this is the first screen that you're going to see. This is the home screen. Now you'll notice that there's several menu options across the top, so we're going to discuss each of those next. So that home screen that we just saw is actually the news menu. Here on the news menu, you'll find a variety of announcements and items of interest. The next menu option is the tasks menu, which shows you how many tasks are in your queue. Tasks are things that you need to do. For example, one of the tasks you may have is to manage any pending or incomplete S&S-20 forms. The records menu option is where you're going to go most of the time. This is where you're going to access your safety and security reporting packages. The reports tab is used to display the various reports that are available to you. One such report would be the historical lookup report to view historical safety and security data. And also in 2017, we launched a new report there called the Rate Compared to Industry Rate Report, which will allow you to compare your agency incident, injury, and fatality rate against the industry average. And finally, the action menu option is where users where you go to add new users in addition to a few other user actions that you'll see under there. So safety and security setup and navigation. The safety and security packages are automatically generated at the commencement of a new calendar year based on the agency's previous reporting status. Modes and types of services available in the safety module are determined by the agency's P20 profile. If you see an unexpected change to any of the modes or types of services in the safety packages, contact the person in your agency who submits annual data reporting. If you do not know who that is, you can contact one of us and we'll certainly look into who that is for you. Please do not attempt to modify the P20 profile form yourself, as any changes that you make can affect all aspects of reporting in the system, not just safety and security, and could cause data to be deleted. The safety packages gives you access to all of the safety and security reporting forms. These are the S&S-20 CEO Certification form that's submitted annually to certify data, the S&S-30 Security Configuration form or forms to report your security personnel, access to creating S&S-40 major event reports, and your monthly summary S&S-50 reports. These will be generated per month according to how far we are along in the year. All right. So that concludes talking about the various menu options and so forth. And as I mentioned, the Records tab is where you're going to go to access the NTD Safety Packages. To access your reporting form, as a reminder, as I said, you just click on Records, and then you choose the NTD Safety Package that you want. After you choose the NTD Safety Reporting Package. My apologies. You'll always see that there's two reporting years there, the current year and the prior year. So once you've clicked on the Safety Reporting Package for the year that you want to view, the first screen that comes up is the Safety Summary View or the landing page. So look at the various options on here. You'll see a confirmation of the reporting year, your agency ID number and name, your validation analyst's name and email address, and your agency's, well, it's not the actual fiscal year. This is the reporting year for safety and security, so it does not coincide with your fiscal year. Below that, you'll see a form name filter box. That's that long box with the arrow at the right-hand side, as you see. This will allow you to filter the forms that you want to see in the table below. So if you just want to see S&S-50s or just want to see S&S-40 forms. Excuse me. In the table below, you will see that you can sort by any of the columns depicted. So this is a great way to adjust the data and find what you want more easily. You can also use the browser's find function by using Control F and enter in a number of a major report that you may be looking for. However, you do have to be on the right page to see that if you have more than one page full of information. Remember that this is just a viewing page. You can't access or open any of the forms at this point. If you want to actually access forms, create forms, or edit forms, you have to click on the NTD Safety Forms button in the upper right-hand corner. Once you click on that NTD Safety Forms button, it takes you to the dashboard. This is where you can, as I mentioned, create and edit reports. Again, you can use the filter box to restrict what type of forms you wish to view. You can also sort all of the columns just as you can on the view page. When you find the report that you want, you click on the blue link under the form name column to open an existing report or form. If the form is an S&S-20 form, it'll also include the invent number in that link. When you're closed with this view, finished with this view, be sure to click on the close button so that you don't get a task to close it. And this is just a snapshot of that dashboard. Okay, so we do have various question sections as Lori mentioned throughout the session, but in the interest of time and because you can use the Q&A box at any time to ask a question, we're just going to continue on rather than pausing here. So please feel free to ask your questions in the Q&A box. And I'm going to turn this over to James.
Thank you, Ann. That concludes the navigation, so we will now move on to the S&S-20 Safety and Security CEO Certification. The S&S-20 CEO Certification form, the CEO or his or her designee confirm the accuracy of the major and non-major safety and security data for the previous calendar year. The form becomes available on January 15th in the previous year's safety package. The form automatically calculates data from submitted reports for the year. Unsubmitted data is not included. Unsubmitted data includes reports that have only been saved. The form is due by the end of February of the following year, and only a person logged in as the CEO or CEO delegate can submit the form. Late notices are sent directly to the CEO. Reporters should review their data to ensure it matches the data in the S&S-20. Agencies should also use any in-house reports available to help verify the data. The historical lookup report on the Reports tab may also be helpful as it shows incident counts by month. If the data does not match, check to ensure that all safety data reports are submitted. Unsubmitted data is not included. You may add or delete S&S-40s or edit S&S-50 data, and the S&S-20 will automatically recalculate the numbers. Remember to always notify your safety analyst if you delete any reports. You or your CEO will click the confirm checkboxes adjacent to the data. Then the CEO can click on Submit. Once the form is submitted, it cannot be resubmitted, but the form auto-calculates each time it is opened. If you are not the CEO or CEO delegate, you will not have a Submit button on this form. This is a snapshot of the S&S-20 CEO Certification form. You'll notice the data and then the confirm checkboxes to the right. We'll now talk about the S&S-20 Security Configuration Form. The S&S-20 Security Configuration Form collects the number and type of security personnel employed or contracted by your agency. The S&S-20 form is completed once at the beginning of the calendar year, and you are not required to update this form again during the year. All S&S-20s must be completed and submitted to enable reporting. If you cannot create or edit an S&S-40 or 50, It is because one or more S&S-30s is not submitted. If your agency adds a new mode during the year, you will need to complete the S&S-30 for that mode before any other reports can be completed. This is a snapshot of the S&S-30 security configuration form. Again, this does not represent actual data for the agency shown. Notice you have to place a number, or you have a place to enter the primary number of security personnel and the total number of security personnel, which is the primary and secondary added together. Do not leave either of these boxes blank. And then below there's a list of 7 types of security personnel with 2 columns to identify the type as either primary or secondary. The primary security personnel is the force that routinely responds to events and or is assigned to patrol agency property. Please remember, for the use of local police non-contracted, please use a count of 0. The secondary security force is the one or ones that occasionally respond or responds when the primary force requires assistance. Again, for the use of local police non-contracted, use a count of 0. The number of personnel is reported in full-time equivalent hours. So 1 FTE equals 1 person working a 40-hour week, or 2,080 hours per year. You'll prorate the number of personnel if the person works only part-time providing transit security, or they provide security from more than one mode. 1 S&S-30 is completed for each mode. Be careful not to double count personnel. Totaling line 2, total number of security personnel, from each mode should equal the total number of personnel for the entire agency. For example, MBPT mode, the total number is 1.5. LRDO mode, the total number is 3. And for the DRDO mode, the total number is 0.5. This means that the total security personnel for the agency would be 5 FTE. If your security force covers multiple modes, you may use any reasonable method for determining FTEs. That may be modal ridership or the number of employees covering a mode. If an agency contracts for security and pays a monthly fee based on services used, they should determine FTE based on the previous year's total hours worked. NTD allows for only 1 primary personnel type. If your agency has more than 1 type of security personnel it considers its primary, report the security force with the largest number of personnel as the primary and the smaller force as secondary. For further information on the S&S-30, please see the S&S policy manual on the NTD website or ask your analyst for assistance. We do have a few clarifications and form changes for 2019. So the first change is a clarification pertaining to attempted suicides. The definition of an attempted suicide has changed to as shown. The attempt of the act and the intent to inflict self-harm must be accounted for by a third party. Please be sure to include all corroborating information in the event description. Additionally, if there was no clear attempt and a person was transported only for mental health evaluation, this will now be reported on the non-major monthly summary report. There are also a few form changes. The first form change is a threshold question on setup screen 2. The question was, were transit vehicles involved in this event? It has been changed to read, were transit revenue vehicles involved in this event? This change is designed to help the reporter determine if the event should be reported as a transit collision or as a non-transit collision that does not involve a revenue vehicle. We had hoped to have this first change made in the system, but it has not launched yet. Please be aware that soon you will see the lighting option of indoors on the collision information instead of artificial lighting. This is a common pitfall where reporters would choose artificial lighting when reporting the street lights that were on when the intent was to capture that the event occurred indoors. A new weather selection of tunnel has been added to the rail forms. We had added 2 new options to the basic information screen when reporting a collision. You will see there is now a checkbox for suicide and attempted suicide. This is used to capture suicide and attempted suicide on the event level rather than collecting only the number of related attempted suicide injuries or suicide fatalities. For rail mode, this allows us to capture attempted suicides when the individual is not transported. Check the appropriate box on the basic information screen and also on the corresponding injury or fatality form. Attempted suicide and suicide not involving impact with a transit vehicle have long been collected on the personal security form. However, these options were removed in 2016 when we started capturing these on the collision form where applicable. We have added these options back to the personal security form, so you will no longer report either of these under the other personal security event option located on the same form, but instead we'll choose the appropriate button. Again, check the related box on the injury or fatality form for the individual. On the non-transit collision event form, we have added a new location of non-revenue facility. This selection would also be used if the non-revenue location was not actually a facility, such as a yard. We will discuss more about non-transit collisions later in this session. Also, we changed the wording to the location option parking facility to read revenue facility parking facility to match similar selections on other forms. Additionally, we added a new collision with selection of non-revenue vehicle. You would select this option if the event involved a non-revenue maintenance or service vehicle. For example, if a maintenance vehicle collided with an object on transit property, resulting in a threshold, you would report the collision with as non-revenue vehicle. You may have already noticed some internal validation checks, and there will be a few more during this year. These validation checks may give a warning that you have conflicting data or may default to certain selections based on other selections made to prevent incorrect reporting. This will help to reduce the number of reports returned for common pitfalls. Let's now look at non-major reporting. The definition of a reportable event is a safety or security event occurring on transit right-of-way, infrastructure, at a transit revenue facility, at a maintenance facility or rail yard during a transit-related maintenance activity, or involving a transit revenue vehicle. These safety events must meet the single injury threshold and are related to falls, electric shock, etc. Multiple injury events are bumped up to a major report. The S&S-20 form also collects the number of non-major fires where there was not an evacuation, injuries, fatalities, or substantial damage, but still required suppression. OSHA events occurring in administrative buildings are excluded from reporting. The form is automatically generated for each mode type of service at the beginning of each month. This form is required to be completed even if there was a major event for the month, as they capture different event types. And even if there's no data to report for the month, you'll still complete an S&S-20. To recap, for submitting other safety incidents, you are entering the number of incidents and the matching number of injured parties. Remember that injured means that they were transported away from the scene for medical attention, regardless of whether they appear injured or not. Do not include people who were transported away from the scene. Excuse that. Here are several examples of injuries reported on the S&S-20. Passengers thrown out of a seat due to vehicle maneuver and is transported. The train door closes on an arm, leg, backpack, or similar type situation and the person is transported. Person falls down an escalator in a transit facility and is transported. Or a maintenance worker is burned by the third rail and is transported. This is a snapshot of the S&S-20 monthly summary report form. Two of the categories for injuries on the S&S-20 form relate to securement issues. Securement issues are those related to an injury resulting from improper securement of a mobility device, such as wheelchair or scooter. So they are reported as other in-vehicle securement issue. The other category is for other in-vehicle, not a securement issue. These are trips, slips while on the vehicle or for being thrown from a seat during a vehicle maneuver. Again, if there's an undocumented attempted suicide, no intent or attempt is captured, and the person is transported for mental health, this is reported on the S&S-20. If there were no incidents for a mode during the month, open the appropriate S&S-20 form and choose the checkbox adjacent to No Data to Report. Then save and submit the report. Remember, do not include injuries due to collision or any other major event type. Again, reports are due at the end of the following month and must be completed and submitted by the due date to avoid an automatic late notice. If a report is saved and not submitted, it is considered late. The S&S-20 can be modified at any time. Some reporters like to enter events as they occur during the month. For these reporters, they can modify the form and save and close the form after each change. Your validation analyst reviews each report for accuracy. If we have any questions, we may return the report to you, call or email you with our concern. If the return feature is used, the user ID under the last modified user column will receive the email. This is a snapshot of a test S&S-20 form with analyst comments and questions. So not only do you receive an email, but when you open the report, you'll be able to see our questions and concerns there as well. This new format shows a timestamp for each time a form is returned, and the reporter may enter comments, though not required, and the form shows the current status, which could read submitted, returned, or approved. This section will appear the same way on the S&S-20 and S&S-40 forms as well. That completes our review of the S&S-20, 30, and 50 forms. If we have any questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A box. However, we will be moving along shortly in the case of time. Thank you. I will now turn this over to Stephen to review major event reporting.
Thank you, James. We will now discuss major event reporting. Applicability and reporting thresholds. A reportable event is a safety or security event occurring on transit right-of-way or infrastructure, at a transit revenue facility, at a maintenance facility or rail yard, during a transit-related maintenance activity, or involving a transit revenue vehicle and meets a reporting threshold. The exclusions have also been clarified. The main change here is the inclusion of events that occur off transit property where affected persons, vehicles, or objects come to rest on transit property after the event. The remainder are events we have not collected in recent years, but information came more from guidance rather than the rule. The exclusions have not changed. Events that occur off transit property where affected persons, vehicles, objects come to rest on transit property after the event. OSHA events in administration buildings, death from illness or natural causes, maintenance facilities, maintenance vehicle collisions while going to or from related maintenance work, or collisions involving a supervisor or transit police vehicle while operating on public roads. A fatality, including suicides, one or more persons transported for medical attention or a serious injury, substantial damage, property damage, evacuation of a transit facility or vehicle for life safety reasons, or evacuations to the rail right-of-way, including both transit or official directed customer self-evacuations, are all automatically reportable regardless of any other threshold. All derailments, both on the main line or in the yard. A collision involving a rail transit vehicle at a grade crossing. A collision is between a rail transit vehicle and a person. A collision between a transit rail vehicle and another transit rail vehicle, which includes both revenue or non-revenue and maintenance vehicles. And any incidents involving a runaway train. Here are a few types of events that are not reportable. The first two listed are examples of events that occur off transit property. Medically related issues, such as seizures, heart attacks, pregnancy, or a transit police vehicle or transit supervisor's vehicle is involved in a collision meeting a threshold, it is not reportable unless the vehicles are on transit property. Part of the event definition states involving a transit revenue vehicle. If a vehicle is deadheading or out of service vehicle is involved in a collision meeting a reporting threshold, it is reportable. Maintenance related activities are included in reporting. Here you see a few examples of maintenance related activities that are reportable. 2 rail workers are injured in a manhole while providing maintenance on rail infrastructure below street level. Maintenance employee is hit by a vehicle in the yard and is injured, or a track worker suffers a fatal fall onto the tracks. Less severe injuries to maintenance workers are captured on the S&S-20 monthly summary report, along with the non-major injuries to passengers and patrons. NTD also collects non-transit collision incidents, such as an accident in a transit parking lot that meets a threshold. A few examples are: a private vehicle collides with pedestrian or vehicle resulting in an injury. A private vehicle collides with transit property, such as a station, resulting in substantial damage or any other threshold. Or a non-revenue maintenance equipment collides with anything or anyone other than the train, such as a high rail vehicle colliding with a person in the yard and the person is injured. If a non-revenue maintenance equipment collides with an agency's train, it is reported as a rail collision. A fatality is a death confirmed within 30 days of a transit-related event. This includes transit-related suicides. Please do not include deaths resulting from illness or natural causes, or persons found deceased on transit property where it is not a result of a collision or suicide. There are 2 types of injuries. An injured person is a person transported immediately away from the scene for medical attention. This is considered a non-serious injury. This includes transport by ambulance or transported by a private vehicle. An injury may also be deemed as a serious injury, which does not necessarily require transport from the scene. Please note that injury thresholds are different between rail and non-rail modes. For information on non-rail modes, please attend the training webinar, consult the policy manual, or other guidance. Further clarification on non-serious injuries. Medical attention must be sought without delay after the event. Medical care sought hours or days after an event does not meet threshold and are not included. Medical attention must be administered at a location other than where the event occurred, meaning that minor first aid given at the scene are not injured. Medical attention due to illnesses should not be reported. For example, if a passenger on a train has a seizure and is transported to the hospital. Serious injuries are defined by the following criteria. Requires hospitalization for more than 48 hours commencing within 7 days from the date of the event. Results in a fracture of any bone except simple fractures of fingers, toes, or nose. Causes severe hemorrhages, nerve, muscle, or tendon damage. Involves an internal organ, or involves second or third degree burns or any burns affecting more than 5% of the body. Substantial damage is defined by the following criteria. Damage to any involved vehicles, facilities, equipment, rolling stock, or infrastructure that has disrupted the operations of the rail transit agency and adversely affects the structural strength, performance, or operating characteristics of the object or vehicle requiring towing, rescue, on-site maintenance, or immediate removal prior to safe operation. The exclusions to the substantial damage criteria are damage to cracked windows, dented, bent, or small punctured holes in the body, broken lights, mirrors, or removal of service for minor repair or maintenance, testing, or video and event recorder download, and personal property and cost of accident or criminal investigation, medical claims, or litigation. At first glance, both the inclusions and the exclusions refer to on-site maintenance and removal from service. Most agencies have policies to remove vehicles from service for post-accident inspections or evaluations. When applying the substantial damage threshold, consider both parts of the substantial damage criteria, that it includes damage to vehicles or objects and on-site maintenance or removal from service prior to safe operation. The exclusions from service for minor repairs or maintenance does not refer to damage in this context. Removal from service due to post-accident inspections may be policy and not necessarily due to damage. Regarding the towing portion in the substantial damage criteria, this does not pertain to towing the train, but does refer to the other vehicle involved towed due to disabling damage in order to meet the threshold. Let's look at a few examples. There is a mid-block collision with no injuries or fatalities, yet the car is towed due to disabling damage. You would select the substantial damage option on the setup screen 2. Then, from the list of damage identifier options, choose to transit property only, vehicles, facilities, equipment, rolling stock, or infrastructure. Then, on the other vehicle form, answer yes to the question, was this vehicle towed from the scene due to disabling damage as a result of the collision? Here we have another mid-block collision. This time, the driver is transported for medical attention and her vehicle is towed to remove it from the street. This does not meet the substantial damage threshold, but the event does meet the injury threshold. So you would report the event because it meets the injury threshold, yet does not meet the substantial damage criteria. And on the other vehicle form, answer no to the question, was this vehicle towed from the scene due to disabling damage as a result of the collision? Rail transit vehicle collisions at a grade crossing are automatically reportable. The collision could be with an automobile, object, animal, and so on. A grade crossing is where rail tracks and a road intersect. For systems running in mixed traffic, such as many light rail systems, each street intersection is considered a grade crossing. For example, if a train and a car collide in an intersection and there are no injuries or fatalities, no damage is towed, no vehicle is towed, and no substantial damage on the collision is still reportable. A collision between a rail transit vehicle and a person is automatically reportable, regardless of injury or fatality. For example, if a pedestrian walks into the side of a moving train and is not injured, you report the collision with a person, but do not include an injury form. As a reminder, if a person bumps into a train that is not moving, it is reported as a slip or fall on the S&S-20. Another automatically reportable collision is between a transit rail vehicle and another transit rail vehicle. This includes both revenue or non-revenue vehicles and maintenance vehicles such as high rail vehicles. These include events both on the main line or in the yard. Agencies are required to report all derailments, both mainline and those occurring in the yard, regardless of meeting any other threshold. This includes derailment of trains in revenue or non-revenue service and maintenance vehicles. All events involving a runaway train are always reported under the event type, which will be a collision, derailment, or other safety. All evacuations for life safety or to the rail right-of-way are reportable, including or directed or customer self-evacuations. Self-evacuations are where customers vacate the property without direction of the transit agency or other authority. However, if passengers are evacuated or self-evacuate directly back onto the platform due to a power loss, for example, this is not considered an evacuation. Evacuation may be due to mechanical or maintenance issues. For example, the train loses power and passengers are evacuated onto the rail right-of-way. However, if passengers are moved from a train to, say, a rescue train without stepping onto the right-of-way, that is not considered an evacuation. Some examples of life safety reasons might be a suspicious package, bomb threat, bombing, smoke event, fire, fuel fumes, and noxious odors. As a reminder, to create a major event report, navigate to the Records menu option, then choose My NTD Safety Packages link, and choose the calendar year you want to report in. Click on the NTD Safety Forms button located in the upper right corner to access the dashboard. To add a new report, just click on the File New S&S-20 button. If you have an event that includes 2 or more transit modes from your agency, how do you choose which mode to report under? If the event involved your rail mode and a non-rail mode, such as a streetcar and bus, choose rail. The first 2 screens will act as a wizard to help determine if the event meets the thresholds. Screen 1 captures the date of the event, the mode and type of service, and the event type. This is a snapshot of setup screen 1. The first and most common event type is a collision. This includes suicides or attempted suicides where there is vehicle impact. Derailments are the next choice, and both mainline derailment and yard derailments. If a derailment results from a collision, report the event as a collision. For an event to be considered a fire, there must be flame suppression. Non-fire smoke events or the smell of something burning which meets another threshold are reported as other safety events. For an event to be considered a hazmat situation, it not only has to meet a threshold, but the situation would have to have required specialized cleanup, such as a hazmat team. Acts of God refer to incidents such as hurricanes, flood, tornadoes, snow and ice storms, etc. There are 2 categories of security events. There are system security events such as arson, bomb threats, burglary, suspicious packages, vandalism. Basically, they are the events that affect the whole transit system. And there are personal security events such as assault, robbery, homicide, attempted suicide, suicide, rape, larceny, etc. that affect one or more persons. Just as with the other event types, the event must meet a threshold. Suicides or attempted suicides that are not collisions are reported here. And finally, the last event type is other safety events. These events are those that don't fit the other categories but meet a reporting threshold. This might be an evacuation due to smoke or a fall resulting in a fatality. You will notice that injuries of 2 or more people has an asterisk. For another safety event, 2 or more injuries are required if that is the only threshold. Therefore, if there is only 1 injury, then another threshold must exist, such as a fatality or an evacuation. The second setup screen asks you a series of questions, some of which are based on the mode and or the type of event you are reporting. This is to determine the reportability of the event and the subforms that need to be generated. This is only a list. We will cover each in more detail. The number of injuries and or fatalities, the substantial damage indicator, the evacuation threshold question, and the runaway train threshold question. If you are reporting a collision in rail mode, you will be asked 4 other questions. Were transit vehicles involved in this event? Was the event a collision at a grade crossing? Was the event a collision with another rail vehicle or person? And did this event involve a runaway train? This question also appears on the derailment and other safety event version of Screen 2. This is a snapshot of Setup Screen 2 for rail mode collisions. If you choose collision on Screen 1, then Screen 2 captures if there were transit vehicles involved in the event. Select Yes if this is true. This includes purchased transportation vehicles as a transit vehicle since you are reporting for this service. You would select No when the collision involves a private vehicle on transit property, such as a parking facility or maintenance vehicles on transit property, such as the yard where no revenue vehicle is involved. Based on the selection you have made and the questions you have answered, the system will respond accordingly. If the event is reportable as a major event, the basic information screen will appear. If the event is not reportable as a major event, the system will not generate a message that the system will generate a message that the event is not reportable and ask if you want to continue. At this point, you can edit the selections on Setup Screen 2 in case you have answered a question incorrectly, which may have made the event seem not reportable. If the event meets the criteria for a major event, the basic information screen will appear. Next to the basic information screen displays the date you already selected. When entering the time, be sure to use AM or PM designations, even if you use military or 24-hour clock format. The approximate or actual location of the event, the geographic location, longitude, and latitude are required. You are permitted to enter numbers, a decimal point, and a negative symbol for the longitude. Please use a minimum of 4 decimal places. If you do not have the coordinates, you can use a variety of internet resources. One such site is latlong.net. This is a snapshot of the latlong.net site if you choose to use it. As you can see, there is a box to enter the physical address or the station name or milepost, and the system will display the coordinates in the latitude and longitude boxes. The basic information screen also captures the event description. The description should be concise but descriptive so that the analyst can understand what occurred, how it occurred, and should include the number and type of injuries or any fatalities. But please do not include personal data such as names and license numbers. The description box can hold 2,000 characters. If you exceed the 2,000 character limit, when you click on Next, a message will pop up that you exceeded the limit, and you will not be able to continue to the next screen until you reduce the number of characters. Here we have provided an example of a comprehensive narrative. There are event type checkboxes for attempted suicide and suicide. Please make sure this selection is also made on the injury or fatality form accordingly. The last piece of information is the name and phone number of someone to contact for additional information regarding the event. You do not need to enter the name of the person if they are already the designated safety contact. The basic information screen is also the first screen that progress bar appears on. This bar shows you how many subsections you must complete and your progress thus far. Here is a snapshot of the basic information screen. We'll now review the details of reporting a collision. The collision screens will vary depending on the mode. There are up to 4 screens or subforms that may appear when reporting a transit collision. A collision event information screen, the collision information screen, the transit vehicle involved information screen, and finally, if any other vehicle was involved in the collision, then the other vehicle involved information screen will appear. This is a snapshot of the collision event screen for rail modes. The first collision screen is the collision event information screen. This captures information about the number of transit vehicles involved. The answer would always be 1 unless 2 transit vehicles from your agency collide. The location of the event, such as a transit facility, right-of-way, both at a grade crossing and not at a grade crossing, etc., is captured. A collision with a bicyclist is reported as a collision with a person. Do not report the collision with as other and type in bicycle in the please describe box. What did the transit vehicle collide with, such as another vehicle, person, animal, fixed object, and so on? And if applicable, the number of other non-transit vehicles were involved in the collision. Here are a few things to keep in mind when reporting collision information. Choose right-of-way, not a grade crossing with locations such as driveway, etc. Select other only when no other option is correct. Grade crossings are locations where rail tracks and vehicular traffic intersect. For streetcar mode, where the rail tracks are in the street, each intersection is a grade crossing. If you report an event that occurred in a non-revenue facility such as a yard, we still prefer that you indicate if the event occurred at a grade crossing or not, rather than just select non-revenue facility. For the collision with selections, a collision with a bicyclist, pedicab, or a person in a wheelchair is reported as a collision with a person. Scooters, mopeds, and motorcycles, school buses, or dump trucks are all reported as collision with a non-transit motor vehicle. Please do not select other and type in school bus. Collision with transit vehicle is used when 2 transit vehicles from your agency collide. In a multiple impact collision scenario, report the collision with as the first object impacted. For example, a train collides with a car and then the car hits a building. The collision with selection would be non-transit motor vehicle, and you would include the damages to the building and that the building was struck in the event description. Here are a few examples of how to determine how many other motor vehicles to report. If car 1 cuts off a light rail vehicle but no contact is made and the light rail vehicle goes on to hit car 2, the number of other vehicles to report is 1 because only car 2 had contact. If car 1 hits car 2, then proceeds to hit the light rail vehicle, the number of other vehicles to report is 2. Both car 1 and car 2 had contact. Please note this box is not the total number of vehicles in the collision. It is only the number of non-transit vehicles involved. So please do not include the transit vehicle in this number. The non-transit collision form would appear if you reported a collision that met a threshold, but when asked were transit revenue vehicles involved in this collision, you selected no. This would be appropriate for reporting collisions on transit property when a transit vehicle was not involved. As with other events, a non-transit collision must meet a reportable threshold. Here are a few examples. A private vehicle with pedestrian, private vehicle or object or animal in a transit parking lot. A privately owned vehicle collides with a transit center building. Or a non-rail maintenance equipment, not trains, collides with anything or anyone except a train. If it collides with a train, it is reported as a rail transit collision. As mentioned earlier, we added a new collision with selection of non-revenue vehicle. You would select this option if the event involved a non-revenue maintenance or service vehicle. For example, if a maintenance vehicle collided with an object on transit property resulting in a threshold, you would report the collision with as non-revenue vehicle. On the same form, include one other vehicle for the maintenance vehicle, and on the subsequent other vehicle subform, select non-revenue maintenance vehicle as the vehicle type. After the collision event information screen, the collision information screen will appear. This is a snapshot of the first part of the collision information screen. The collision information screen captures information about the conditions at the scene. All modes capture the weather at the time of the collision. Was it clear, raining, snowing, etc.? If the incident occurred in a tunnel, it would select the new tunnel selection. Under lighting, the twilight selection is used to refer to both dawn and dusk, when it is not full light or full dark out. Please be sure your lighting corroborates the AM/PM time you entered on the basic information screen. If the collision occurred in a tunnel or indoor facility, please select artificial lighting. Please note this selection is not used to indicate street lights or lights at the platform. Under rail alignment, let's look at two of the options. The first is shared with other rail vehicles, controlled access to other non-rail vehicles. You would use this selection when the rail alignment is a semi-exclusive right-of-way with controlled grade crossings for vehicular traffic. The second is non-exclusive right-of-way shared with vehicles or pedestrians. Will be selected when the rail alignment consists of rail tracks that are embedded in the street and cars can drive over them or pedestrians can walk over them in the same area that the transit vehicle travels. Neither of these options will be selected if the rail is heavy rail, since a heavy rail alignment would always be exclusive except for two specific agencies. For the grade crossing control device selection, please be sure that the location is consistent with the location that you chose back on the fourth screen, the collision event information screen. Be sure to choose not applicable if the collision did not occur at a grade crossing. At this point, we have completed the collision event information screen. The next screen to be presented collects information about rail transit train involved. One screen will appear for each train involved. Therefore, if two trains from the same agency collide, you would complete one transit vehicle information form for each train. The form includes an identifier count and buttons for increasing or decreasing the number of vehicles. This is a screenshot of the rail transit train involved screen. This form captures the number of cars in a train and the number of cars derailed, the vehicle action at the time of the collision, was it stopped, turning, etc. The collision type is captured. This is the part of the train that was hit and is reported from the viewpoint of the train. This diagram shows most of the impact points, which are reported from the point of view of the transit vehicle. Other front impact is used when the front of the transit vehicle is impacted, but not when it will be considered a head-on or rear ending. An example would be the front corner bumper hits another vehicle or object while turning, not the bumper on the side at the front. Likewise, other rear impact is used when a transit vehicle is impacted on the rear, but not when it will be considered a rear ending. An example would be if the transit vehicle was backing up and hit a utility pole. Multiple vehicle accidents or chain reaction accidents can be a challenge to report. Remember to consider the first impact or collision type in your analysis. In this diagram, Vehicle 1 would be reported as rear-ending. It's doing the hitting, which means that Vehicle 2 was rear-ended, which then caused Vehicle 2 to be pushed into Vehicle 3, the transit vehicle, which would also be reported as rear-ending or rear-ended. You must also report the actual or estimated speed of the transit vehicle at the time of the collision, the transit vehicle manufacturer, and the vehicle fuel type. The last question confirms if the collision involved a runaway train, and if so, then also indicate the location of the operator at the time. If you indicated on the collision event screen that another vehicle was involved, the other vehicle information screen will appear. This screen gathers information about non-transit vehicles or vehicles involved in the collision. If more than one other vehicle is involved, you will need to complete one other vehicle involved information form for each motor vehicle involved. For example, if a transit vehicle causes a multi-car collision with two automobiles, two other vehicle involved screens will be generated and must be completed. This form also includes a vehicle count and buttons for increasing or decreasing the number of other vehicles. This is a screenshot of the other vehicle involved screen. This form also collects the type of other vehicle. When reporting a collision, the other vehicle screen has a selection for commercial rail or Amtrak vehicle. The automobile option would be used for both cars and passenger vans, like a Dodge Caravan, for example. The action or physical movement of the other vehicle at the time of the collision is also collected. Just as when reporting the transit vehicle collision type, you are indicating the part of the vehicle that was hit from the point of view of the other vehicle. This concludes the collision information screen. Answer yes or no to the question, was this vehicle towed from the scene due to disabling damage as a result of the collision? If your event includes an injury or fatality, you will need to complete a screen for each person. This form also includes a person count and buttons for increasing or decreasing the number of people. Person type location categories are divided into two groups, persons outside the vehicle and persons inside the vehicle. Be sure to choose carefully. We often see collision reports where the transit vehicle operator is reported as being outside the vehicle during the collision. Transit vehicle rider is the correct choice for passengers boarding or alighting and for people and train surfing or riding between cars. Pedestrian walking along road also includes walking along tracks. Pedestrian other is the best choice for people sitting, standing, laying on tracks. Only the injury form includes selections for the nature of the injury, serious or non-serious, and a checkbox to indicate if the person was transported. Remember, a seriously injured person may not have been transported from the scene. A non-serious injury requires transport. Forms also include an attempted suicide and a trespasser checkbox on the injury form, and a suicide and trespasser checkbox on the fatality form. Please be sure to select the location and the checkboxes accordingly. You may check both the suicide or attempted suicide and the trespasser boxes. Be sure to select the trespasser box if pedestrian other is selected. Just as with attempted suicide, if there are police reports, eyewitness statements, etc. to account for trespassing, please include the information in the event description. Using the word trespasser or trespassing is very helpful to the analyst. Trespassing events are not reported on the event level, and trespassing is not a threshold. Rather, we collect trespasser injuries or fatalities. For example, a person may be trespassing by crossing the tracks in a station, and when they reach the opposite platform, an officer arrests that person. In the process of the arrest, the officer is assaulted and transported for medical attention, but the perpetrator was not injured. The trespasser box should not be checked because the injury was to the officer who was not trespassing. Here are a couple of examples in determining trespassing. If a person jumps onto the tracks, perhaps in front of a vehicle, or they go under a platform, or are on an exclusive right-of-way, they are trespassing. However, if a person falls or is pushed onto tracks, or a person crossing tracks in non-exclusive rights-of-way, they are not considered trespassing. These examples only pertain to rail alignments, but a trespasser could also be in an unauthorized area of a station, such as an employee-designated area. This is a snapshot of a fatality form. This is a snapshot of the injury form. We have concluded reporting collisions. As a reminder, please use the Q&A box to ask any questions that you might have. Let's turn this back over to James.
Thanks, Stephen. Evacuations for life safety means there is imminent danger to all people in that environment. Reportable evacuations are also to the rail right-of-way. Each evacuation type includes both customer self-evacuations or transit and official direction. Evacuations can be part of almost any event type, but are least common in collisions. An evacuation requires all passengers and/or employees to depart a transit vehicle or facility. These may be for a safety or security event. This includes events that occur off-property but affect the transit system. For example, a gas leak or fire on adjacent property that caused the RTA to evacuate a nearby station. Evacuations are not if a person's removed from vehicle or medical treatment or cut from vehicle with jaws of life. They're not a person hit by a car on a city street and lands on the rail right of way. And it's not when transferring passengers from one train to another where the passengers are not placed on the right of way. This is a screenshot of the rail mode evacuation subform. The first question on the evacuation event screen is to confirm that the evacuation was for life safety to the rail right of way or self-evacuation. You may select as many options as needed. Include a brief description of the evacuation, including the cause. The what was evacuated question is used to indicate what was actually evacuated. One choice would be vehicle vessel, which would mean the train. Do not report the location of the train at the time. Once the evacuation subform is generated in a report, it cannot be deleted. So if an evacuation is incorrectly included, the entire report would need to be deleted and a new report entered without the evacuation. Similarly, you cannot add an evacuation subform to a report. Reporting derailments. All derailments of transit trains on mainline track or in the yard are reported, even if the train is not in revenue service and regardless of any other major threshold. On the derailment form, you will be asked to indicate if this is a mainline or yard derailment. Maintenance equipment such as a high rail vehicle derailments are also automatically reportable. Please be sure to select one rail transit vehicle involved, even though this generates a train form, and not the other vehicle form. Reminder, derailments resulting from a collision are reported as collisions, not a derailment. This is a screenshot of the derailment form. As you can see, the form collects the type of derailment, where the derailment occurred, the number of trains involved, the location of the derailment, and the right-of-way configuration. This is a screenshot of the derailment rail transit details form, which is much like the collision information screen collecting lighting, alignment, and conditions. This is a screenshot of the derailment rail transit train involved form. The form also collects information about the train involved, including if the derailment was due to a runaway train. Reporting fires on the S&S-20 that meet one or more major event threshold. To be defined as a fire, the incident must have had fire suppression equipment or personnel involved to contain the fire and must meet a major event threshold. Without these thresholds, a fire requiring suppression is reported on the S&S-20 non-major summary report. Remember, arson is reported on screen 1 as a system security event, not a fire. The presence of smoke only and no fire is reported as an other safety event. Here's a screenshot of the fire event details. If the fire is in or on the rail vehicle, including in the engine, wheel area, or anywhere on the outside, this would be reported as in or on vehicle. Report the type or cause of the fire. For the fuel type selection, if you chose the location of the fire as in or on vehicle, then you would report the fuel type of the vehicle. Acts of God are natural and unavoidable catastrophes that affect the transit environment. Select all locations of property damage, injuries, fatalities, and evacuations. You'll be able to choose more than one option. For example, the location should indicate the property or properties that were damaged and not the geographic location, such as the name of the city. This is a screenshot of the Act of God screen. When reporting hazardous material spills, the spill must meet a reportable threshold and have caused imminent danger to life, health, or environment, and required specialized cleanup. A couple of examples of what is not reportable as hazmat event. Oil, brake fluid, etc. from a transit vehicle is most likely not enough fluid to meet a threshold. A bleach container carried onto vehicle breaks open and the vehicle is evacuated due to flames. This is reportable, but as an other safety event because no specialized cleanup was used. This is a screenshot of the hazardous material spill screen. Notice you report the location of the spill and the type of material spilled. There are two categories of security events on screen 1. System security or personal security events, which would include the following event types. System security events occur on transit property and affect the transit system as a whole. Personal security events happen to individuals on transit property or those boarding or alighting a transit vehicle. This is the form used to report attempted suicide or suicide where the event does not involve contact with the train. This is a screenshot of the system security event. You may notice that there's an other system security event option on this form. This would be to capture security events that do not meet any other category. For example, shots fired at or objects thrown at a vehicle. This is a screenshot of the personal security event screen. Please notice the new selections for suicide and attempted suicide. Remember, this is for when there's not contact with the vehicle. The final major event type is other safety events. This is your miscellaneous category. These events must meet one of the following thresholds. 1 or more fatalities, 2 or more injured, either serious or non-serious, substantial damage, an evacuation, or involved a runaway train. Please note, you may report an other safety event with 1 injury if another threshold is met. Here's some examples. An evacuation of transit property due to smoke, fumes, noxious odors. Any fatality on transit property that is not considered a collision or suicide, like for example, a fall, electrocution. 2 or more people thrown from their seats due to a hard brake. 2 or more people injured when an escalator comes to an abrupt stop. Other safety events resulting in only a single injury are reported on the S&S-20 monthly summary form. This is a screenshot of the other safety event screen. So at this point we have completed all our screens for the reportable events. We'll now review saving, submitting, and editing. At any point from the basic information screen on, the system automatically saves your report. So if you close the report without saving or submitting from this point on, these auto-save reports become tasks on the task menu. These tasks are only available for a short time and are then removed. When you are ready to complete the report, click on the task menu option and you will see a listing of each task. Major event report tasks will appear with S&S-20 in the title. Just click on the task and the system will return you to the screen you are on when you close the report. Complete the report and save and submit. Or if you no longer need the report, you can choose delete instead. Save and submit options appear when you are in view form mode. If you do not see a save or submit button, click on the View Form button and scroll to the bottom. Once you click on Save, the report is saved. It is given an event number at the top of the report. The report stays open so you may review it. When you submit a report, the report will close and return you to the dashboard. Submitting the report releases the report to the validation analyst for review and comment. It also notifies the analyst that a report has been created. Otherwise, we may never know one has been created. If we see an unsubmitted report and it is past due, we will contact you to submit the report. Please note that unsubmitted reports are excluded from the event, injury, and fatality counts in the S&S-20 CEO Certification form. Analysts may return a report to you for questions or to make corrections. The system will send the last modified user one email for each report that is returned. After you make the correction, please be sure to save and submit. When reviewing or editing your reports, it's important to learn how to move around the document. Here's a list of the available button tools, though each button may not be available on every form. One shortcut I would like to point out is the Jump To button. This button allows you to jump to a specific screen instead of using the next or back buttons. This is also the only way to edit a report. So in order to edit, you'll move to that section, click the Jump To button, and it will bring you to a portion of the form that you can edit. The View Form button shows the entire report for review and contains the Jump To buttons, as well as Save and Submit. When you open the report, the first screen is the Setup Summary view. This screen is the only place you can edit the date of the event. Also, if your report does not include any injuries, this screen is the only place where you can add them. Then you would click on Next, which displays your report in View Form mode. At this point, you can continue to use Next to go to each screen, or you can click on one of the Jump To section buttons. Once again, the Jump To button also enables the editing mode. As a reminder, Save and Submit only appear in View Form mode. A moment ago, I mentioned how to add injuries or fatalities if there are not any in the report. However, if there are injuries or fatalities in the report already, and you need to increase or decrease the number, you can jump to the injury or fatality section and use the Add or Delete Persons button. If you choose Delete Person, it will delete the person you are currently viewing. Similarly, you can increase or decrease the number of transit or non-transit vehicles in a report by, again, jumping to the appropriate section and click on Add Vehicle or Delete Vehicle. Be sure to click on Save and Submit after making your changes. If you delete a report that was not requested by your analyst, please notify your S&S analyst. Not only do we need to know why the report was deleted, it saves the analyst from trying to locate which report was deleted when our tracking sheets show a different number than the NTD screen. So this concludes the presentation. We'll open the lines for questions again. If you do not get a chance to ask your question or prefer to ask it in a one-on-one session, please feel free to contact any of us after the presentation. Please stick around. I think we're going to have a few closing statements and answer any of these remaining questions.
Thank you. Again, if anybody has any questions, go ahead and type them in the box. We'll just wait a few more minutes and see if anyone starts typing. Again, the contact information is there. It is also available on the handouts. You know what? Maybe I can let me paste that link again. I briefly have control of my computer again. Let me see if I can put that in the chat. Actually, I'm going to put it on the screen for a second. Copy it. I don't know if everybody can see that or not. Okay, I'm pasting the link again. It has everyone's contact information. I don't see anyone typing in the open questions. So I guess we'll wrap this up. Last call. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for participating in this afternoon's webinar. a special thank you to Ann, James, and Stephen for your time this afternoon and the informative presentation. As a reminder, you will be receiving an invitation to fill out an evaluation for this event. We really appreciate your feedback. And if you check our YouTube page, hopefully the recording of this will be posted probably in the next couple of weeks. My son has spring break next week, so it would probably be the week after. So everybody enjoy a holiday if you're celebrating this weekend, and have a good afternoon. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.